Good evening, folks, and welcome to an interesting episode of Backmarker Battles. I am your host of the ARCA Racing podcast, Colby Evans, aka Starting Parker on Twitter. I will explain why we're doing this on a Tuesday rather than a Thursday here in a second. I'll get through my little intro and we'll get right into the show. You guys know the drill. Follow me on social media at Starting Parker on Twitter. We're just hit over 4,400 followers. Thanks again there. 1,046 plus subscribers now on YouTube. Can't thank you guys enough for your continued support. And, of course, check out the racingexperts.com for all NASCAR meter-related content. So why are we doing this on a Tuesday rather than a Thursday? For the people who haven't noticed on my Twitter account, I've been invited by Hill Motorsports truck team to do some volunteer crew work this weekend at Texas. Obviously, since this is a non-companion weekend, some of the truck teams, especially the lower-tier ones, sometimes have trouble finding help. As a lot of the people that they normally will have will be in Richmond, because the Cup Series and Xfinity Series and Modified Series will be in Richmond, and the Truck Series they've been doing this for about a decade now, their truck race and then the IndyCar, the big IndyCar race at Texas. They've been doing that combo weekend for about over a decade now. And so I'll be going to Texas Motor Speedway for the first time. It'll be really fun, but my plane to Texas is leaving on Thursday, so I wouldn't get a chance to do this. So I thought, why not? Let's do this on Tuesday instead. So we have the COTA review, and we'll be doing our Texas-Richmond preview. So kind of a big show for you guys today. And again, I welcome you guys all here. We already got a pretty decent live amount of people here in, and hopefully more will join as we go along. So we have COTA. You know, for a lot of people, COTA is one of their favorite road courses. I'll be honest with you guys, I'm still not 100% sold on it. I think it can deliver some good racing, but I would not rank it above Watkins Glen. Watkins Glen, for me, will always be my number one road course for really any racing division, whether it's IndyCar, sports cars, or NASCAR, that predominantly on road courses. Watkins Glen will always be my number one. I would probably put COTA about third. But, yeah, so that's just kind of my personal opinion there. But we had all three series here. The truck race, man. We had the first DNQ trucks of the year since Atlanta. We had 39 here. We had some interesting entries. We had Spire back with Alex Bowman, Samuel Lemkant with Nemco. Yes, Nemco was attempting their first truck race in over 2 years. Dale Quarterly, the Quarterman, was running his own truck under G2G Racing. Road Ringers, Ed Jones from IndyCar. We had Logan Bearden from Sports Cars. We had Mason Filippi from Sports Cars. Just a lot of interesting entries in the field. The race itself, again, I thought it was okay. Having no stages was such a great thing to see, man. I mean, personally, I really hope the stages get abolished. I have no problem with stage points. I've said that many, many times. I have no problems with the stage points, but just get rid of the cautions. And I'm glad we're starting with road courses, because it was absolutely killing pit strategy, and it made it more fun. The race flowed a lot better, even with the commercials. It just flowed so much better than what it would with the stages. You could tell the commentators, they felt like they were having more fun with it. So we had 39 trucks here for 36 spots. So we were going to have DNQs as predicted. I did not think this race would be a short field. Kind of feel bad for the 33 of Mason Massey right out of the gate. Didn't get to make a practice lap, didn't make a qualifying lap due to a battery issue, and ended up missing the race. So that's got to be the worst thing of all. Even if you miss the show, it's nice to be able to run some practice laps. You know, just say, well, at least we got to run some practice laps. At least we got to make a qualifying run. We made a valiant effort. But, man, to get unloaded, get through tech, and not even be able to make a lap in practice or qualifying, that's got to suck. So, tough break there for Rayom. They came into this race, though, 31st in the points. So, I'm sure they thought that maybe they had a slight chance of just getting in on a provisional and being able to start the race then. Other notables who struggled, Daniel Dye. They did have a motor issue in practice. But I will say so far, Daniel Dye's truck season has gotten off to a pretty rough start for a GMS truck. So I've definitely expected more out of him. Both Samuel Lemkant and Mason Filippi were pretty off the pace. I was actually quite surprised at how slow Samuel was for Nimco's return. He was over 7 seconds off in practice. Mason was over 8 seconds off. Other notables who struggled, Stephon Parsons actually was in the 12 for Spencer Boyd having travel issues, but that truck nearly exploded on pit road with how much smoke was coming out. Jake Garcia, he's very good on the short tracks, but it's obvious he's still not gotten used to the road courses yet. Was only 35th, his own truck number in practice. Other notables who struggled, Crafton was down in 25th. But yeah, for backmarkers, like I said, not really a lot of the backmarkers that did good. Even Timmy was down in 29th. DiBenedetto was down in 23rd. The highest I would consider backmarker team to run well, I would actually put as Logan Bearden. AM Racing's truck team is not where it used to be, so I kind of just count them as an underdog now in 21st. Moving over to qualifying, I had actually switched over to the 8 teams radio. I wanted to listen to their radio. Note, I did not hear Joe Nemechek on the radio the entire time. I did not hear Joe on the radio at all. And the crew chief, it's like Samuel just wasn't pushing the truck to probably what the truck was capable of. Because we know Nemco can prepare a great truck. I mean, they've prepared great trucks, great Xfinity cars for years. They just never had the funding to go along with it, but they can prep a car. I mean, Joe's been doing road courses for years. Joe's very good on the road courses. So he knows how to prepare a good truck. But it's like Samuel just wasn't pushing it hard enough because constantly it felt like every lap that Samuel was running, the crew chief had to just keep encouraging him, push harder, push harder. And I think they could tell just by information on what, now that we have all this updated information on how hard the truck's being pushed into turns and on the straightaways, maybe they felt like Samuel wasn't pushing it as hard as he probably could be. And it showed. It really did show despite all the issues. I mean, we had so many issues from practice to qualifying. Like I said, with the 33 not making a qualifying run, the 88, the 02, and the 43 also not making a qualifying run. The 7 of Alex Bowman losing a tire. I mean, this was a guaranteed real opportunity for Lemcont to make the race. But yet he can only manage 34th quickest, which was quite surprising. I mean, you were giving almost a golden horseshoe opportunity to make the show with how many trucks were having issues, and still he missed it. And he didn't miss it by a little bit. He still missed it by quite a bit. I mean, Samuel was over 2.5 seconds off just 31st. So, well, I do feel bad for Nemco. I mean, if you're 2.5 seconds off of just 31st, well, I think we can all agree you don't deserve to be in the race. So as much as I hate to see Nemco go home, we all do, but I feel like the DNQ was warranted. He also crashed at the end of practice too, so that's kind of the worst part. He not only do you miss the race, but Nemco also goes home with a wrecked truck. So sucks for Nemco, but I think that truck had the speed to make the show. They just probably needed a better driver. Mason Filippi was another one. He was 8 seconds off in practice, and it looked like he was going to join. Alex Bowman and Samuel on the DNQ list until his final lap. After the session had expired, the 34, I don't know what he did, but he picked up over 2.5 seconds to not only leap inside the top 31, but to go to 30th. So very impressive qualifying run by Mason Filippi, but unfortunately, due to that qualifying lap, knocks out his teammate. So he sent the 33 of Mason Massey home, the primary Rayom entry. So that's kind of a good news, bad news situation for Rayom. The 34 makes it, but the 33 will now go home. And you guys heard me say Alex Bowman, yes. And this is the one problem that we've seen, with these part-time teams. They did this partnership last year with Spire, and, they easily made the show. But coming into this race with only one start and very little owner points, it's always in the back of your mind. You never know what could happen. And it bit Alex Bowman. They had a flat tire on their very first lap. It's not like this happened after they had completed a lap. So all Alex could do was try to nurse it around as quick as he could to at least complete some sort of lap. And unfortunately, it was utterly slow. He was registered as completing a lap, but it was over 34 seconds off of what 31st would have been, which still tells you he was hauling. And unfortunately, due to these group qualifying rules, you cannot change tires. You can change tires in between practice to qualifying, but you cannot change tires again. Like they can't take the right front or whichever tire it was. You can't take the practice tire and put it back on. So that was a shame, man. I mean, you talk about that was not only a truck that could run well, that was a winning capable truck that we sent home. So very surprising DNQ and times in NASCAR, but we have seen it over the years. We have seen it over the years where on the very rare occasions we will see a race-winning truck, race-winning Xfinity car, and race-winning Cup car. It's been a long time since that's happened, but we have seen cases where a race-winning car actually misses the field. So you don't see this very often, but it's definitely happened more than people would think. But it just sucks for Spire because they put a lot of effort into that truck team. Yeah, like I said, sucks for Mason Massey and Samuel. Just sucks to see Nemco go home because we're all Joe Nemechek fans. If you're a low-budget fan, you love Joe Nemechek. That's all he can say. If you don't love Joe Nemechek, then you're not a low-budget fan. Joe Nemechek is awesome. That's all I'm going to say. I love Joe Nemechek. Other notable backmarkers who qualified, Dale Quarterly was 33rd. We already mentioned Mesa Felipe. Timmy was 29th again. Stephon Parsons, they were able to get the truck fixed. I don't know what the problem was. He qualified 26th. Ed Jones was 23rd. You could say underdogs, even though they don't usually run slow, but underdogs, 75, Team Parker Kligerman, 17th. Logan Bearden with an impressive 14th as well. So we move on into the race. And I guess you could say shout out to Nice Motorsports. At the end of the day, they are kind of one of the lower. Sometimes they have lower tier trucks. Sometimes they have good trucks. Ross Chastain was on the pole for this race. Race itself, like I said, thought it was very good. The no stages very helped. But it was chaos from the beginning. I feel for Ed Jones, man. I really wanted to see what Ed could do in the 20 truck for Young's Motorsports. I hate it for them because in a lot of sense, Ed, I feel like Ed got the short change in IndyCar. He had that great run for Dale Coyne Racing in the Indy 500 one year. I think, top 3 finish. And then he got that shot with Chip Ganassi, and it's just like it wasn't a good fit. He had that 1 year at Chip Ganassi in IndyCar, and he didn't do much. It wasn't really his fault. He just didn't really do much. And unfortunately got released after the car quickly and really just hasn't really recovered since. And I'm like, man, this is a great opportunity. Young's Motorsports getting a road ringer in the truck and get a good run out of it. And 2 years in a row, the 20 Young's truck breaks on lap 1. Last year, 20 truck with Sheldon Creed behind the wheel, broke a drivetrain, finished last after lap 1. And this year, it looked like they broke a track bar mount and destroyed the rear tire, so he couldn't even drive it back to the garage. So, man, that sucks for Ed Jones. And they were not on the DVP. They did try to fix the truck, but I think they either went too many laps down to gain anything or they just didn't feel it was worth it. But I hate it for Ed Jones because I feel like he could have been something special in that race. So that was just the first lap. And then we went continued on. Dean Thompson was our next retiree. For Tricon has showed good speed this year, but man, that 5 truck has really struggled, man. You got all the Tricon. I mean, you look at the owner's points, all the Tricon trucks are in the top 20, and then you see the 5 truck down in 34th. Dean has just had no luck this year at all. No good luck in any of these races. And 4 laps in, radiators busted. That's day over. That's day over for that team. And Tricon Garage, that's race winning equipment. And Dean is not doing much in it. So got to wonder, man, you got to step it up. But obviously you can't help bad luck. Obviously can't help it. But Dean Thompson, man, he's got to get some good luck sometime. Carson Osevar had an axle issue. Spencer Boyd had an electrical issue. So, Young's Motorsports had a tough day. Parker Kligerman, the 75 team, the Charlie Henderson team that we always root for, they had an electrical issue. This is probably one of their more poor performances, I would honestly say. Yeah, they ran in the top 10, top 5 at one point, but overall, compared to the speed we saw from them at Mid-Ohio last year, expected them to be a little bit more competitive than they were at this point. So they fell out of the race. As the race went on for underdogs, Timmy Hill in the 56 team, I'm not sure what happened to them. I don't know, they said something about shock issues. I didn't really, the radio kept cutting in and out, and it's not shocking with how big COTA is, and you're trying to, broadcast these radios to the fans. One lap I would hear Timmy on the radio, and then 2 laps I wouldn't hear anything. So it was kind of hard to decipher what was going on, but it just didn't appear that something was right with the truck. I don't know if it was something was broken or something, but his lap times compared to everyone else were just not that. It felt like they were far off than what they should be. Now, was something wrong with the truck? Was something not wrong with the truck? I couldn't understand on the radio. I couldn't hear them. I think I heard when like 5 minutes was silence. So I'm not sure if there was a problem, but it felt like there was. A problem with the 56, which is a shame because like every year at COTA, Timmy's running well, and then something happens. 2021, he spun out with 2 laps to go. 2022, something breaks in the truck when he's running inside the top 20. And this year, it just felt like the truck. It felt like there was something wrong because I felt like he had a lot better truck than where he had finished. So continue on. Dale Quarterly, man, real shout out to Dale Quarterly. This was his own truck under G2G. This was Dale's own truck. It was an ex-KBM truck, and Dale was doing a hell of a job out there, I'll say. He ran top 20, I will say, literally the entire race. He got a track limits penalty earlier in the race, sent him a little far back, climbed his way back into the top 20, but unfortunately in the later part of the race got another, I think it was 2 consecutive penalties in the truck race that regulated him down to 28th. And I put out a tweet saying, absolutely 28th does not reflect how well Dale Quarterly ran in this race. I hope that he drives again at Mid-Ohio because he's really given that truck all for socks. But it was cool seeing 60-plus-year-old Dale Quarterly running inside the top 20 with teams with about 15 times more than his budget. That's for sure. Other underdogs who did well, Mason Filippi, even though he showed that great qualifying run, the speed still really wasn't all the way there for him. 26th for him. Colby Howard ended up, he kind of struggled throughout the race. He got a track limits penalty, 24th. Logan Bearden, 22nd. Chris Wright, somehow did not wreck the entire race. He got turned at one point, though. 21st. Colin Garrett, 20th. Caden Honeycutt, man. You talk about sad. As happy as I am to see get him a top 15 finish, the sad part is that this deal is only for the first 6 races. I really wish this team was going full time because, man, Caden has really shown a lot of promise in these races. I know he missed Daytona, but he showed a lot of promise at Vegas before he had his voltage issues. He showed a lot of promise at Atlanta before he ran over something. And, in this race, he showed a lot of promise as well. So hopefully Caden can get something going along, man, because I hate that after, I think this will be race number 5. So right now the 04 has only got 2 more planned races. I will say, though, he about had his race ruined in one of the last corners. I don't remember which lap, but the 13 of Deegan just absolutely took him out. Now, a lot of people were saying that it was wheel hop, and it might have been. It might have been wheel hop, but he left her plenty of room, and she just flat out missed the corner and just slammed right into him. Thankfully, it didn't kill both their races. Deegan actually had one of her better runs of the year, finishing directly behind him in 16th. But overall, I thought the truck race was good. Sometimes we see the underdogs shine on the road courses. Most of the time we see them struggle. And today was just this race was kind of one of those. The top tier teams kind of reigned supreme. Zane Smith won the race, burnt the truck to the ground, literally, after the race. Probably one of the cooler things we've seen. Can't wait to see if Lionel Racing actually replicates that damage. If that's the case, might actually have to pick that truck up. But yeah, Caden Honeycutt, and I would say Lawless Allen were really and Colin Garrett were the only 3 underdogs I would consider in the top 20. A lot of them just struggled. Like I said, Chris Wright 21st, Logan Bearden 22nd, Timmy 25th, Mason Felipe 26th, Dale Quarterly 28th, Spencer Boyd down in 32nd, and of course Ed Jones down in 36th. Now, owner points coming out of this race coming into Texas. Obviously, Texas this weekend. We're not going to Richmond. Trucks only go to Richmond once a year. Owner points coming into this race. No DNQs. I kind of figured, this is a standalone truck race. Standalone truck races at Texas will rarely have DNQs. Once in a blue moon, we'll have a DNQ, but that's mainly for a extra start and park entry. But I will say we're still doing better than the days where we used to get about 29 to 30 trucks out of the 36 possible entries for this race. So 36 entries for this race, which is what I'm happy to see. The one postmark that is there, the 46 was TBA Armani Williams, who attempted this race last year with Rayom, failed to qualify after they couldn't. I don't know if they could get through tech. They had tech issues. I don't think he even made a qualifying lap. Sorry, excuse me. I got the little burpees. But he'll be driving the 46. Tyler Hill, Timmy's brother, will be working with him this weekend. Again, shout out to Hill Motorsports for the opportunity this weekend. Tyler Hill will be making his debut. MF1 Fantasy Racing. So shout out to them for being on the 56 truck this weekend. Entry list looks pretty much the same as usual. Matt Mills will be in the 20 for Young's Motorsports. Josh Rayom returns to the 22 again. Keith McGee returns to the 34 from Atlanta. Ross's brother, Chad Chastain, will return to the 41, or I guess to Nice. He ran the 44 last year. Like I said, Armani Williams in the 46, and Jack Wood is the only other change back in the 51. And, Ryan Vargas in the 30. Forgot about that too. So, Ryan Vargas in the 30. Only 36 trucks. Nobody's going home, so it's going to kind of make practice and qualifying a little bit simpler for these guys. You don't got to go out there and push it, because last year we had 2 trucks go home last year. So this year, don't got to push it that hard in practice. Don't got to push it that hard in qualifying. Just nice, easy lap. So it's going to be a lot of fun. That's for sure. Texas last year, like we all know, Texas ain't the most popular, but the truck series usually put on a good show almost everywhere they go. They put on a good show last year. I felt like this year shouldn't be no different. This is a real opportunity race for these guys, standalone, no cup guys, no Xfinity guys coming over. It's all their own. I feel like this is a race where Tricon noted, the Tricon 1 truck is not on this list. That truck was not planned to run full time, but was planned to run the majority, about 19 to 20 races, they said, of the 23 races that the 1 truck will be at. So it's not going to be full time, but it will run the majority of the season. So, and then we also have Trey Hutchins. Shout out to Trey Hutchins. So for all the real underdog fans, if you want to pull for us too, yes, but also pull for Trey Hutchins. Always cool seeing Trey Hutchins. I mean, they're about as low budget as you could get, but still competitive. So they're a good team. So cool to see Trey Hutchins back in the truck series again this year. But this is a real opportunity race. I would expect some carnage. This new Texas has been notoriously known for its big crashes. So it wouldn't shock me if we see some big crashes this weekend, as long as we're not one of them. That's all I'll say. As long as we're not one of them, that'd be nice. But as long as we're not one of them, we don't want that. And I don't want to see this for any of my guys. Like, I don't want to see the 14 tear it up. I don't want to see any of the Rayom trucks tear it up. Because I cheer for all these guys every week. I don't want to see any of these guys. I don't want to see Tyler Hill, Ryan Vargas, Matt Mills, Josh Rayom, especially Trey Hutchins, Caden Honeycutt. I don't want to see any of these guys tear stuff up. So hopefully we can all have clean races. But the big guys, go ahead and tear up as much stuff as you want. The teams who don't have to worry about repairing their trucks, tear as much up as you want. But no, in all, it should still be a fun race. It should still be a fun race. If you want to give a pick, since, sometimes we like to, even though this is for backmarkers, I still like to give a race winning pick. I'll take Matt Crafton. I'll take Matt Crafton as my race-winning pick, and my underdog, I'll take Corey Heim as my underdog pick. It'll be interesting to see if the 34 actually runs the whole distance. We have seen that truck, unironically pull in very early, both at Las Vegas and Atlanta, which did appear for legitimate gear issues, but it's just ironic that it happened once again so early in the race. It'll be interesting to see if they show up with the exact same truck again. I will post the picture. I will hopefully get a picture of that 34 truck, and we'll post online to see if it is the same truck and if they pull off early again, because it wouldn't shock me if that 34 is kind of being used as a field filler entry as well. And yes, Josh Williams is the crew chief for both the 34, and he's driving the 22. We have seen that before, but usually that happens when a start and park effort happens. So that's kind of maybe a little insider term right there, maybe what's going on with the 34. Again, we'll see. We'll see if the 34 is full race, but it wouldn't shock me if the 34 once again pulls off again early this weekend. So that's the truck race from Texas, and the other two series this weekend will be in Richmond. But first, we got to go over their COTA races as well. We move on to Xfinity. Xfinity at COTA, we knew it was going to be a big entry list. We had a lot of ringers in the field, a lot of guys you wouldn't expect. Again, we go over Blaine Perkins was released, or they mutually parted ways from the 07 team. We had a lot of ringers in this race. Baltazar Laguzzaman. Again, if I botched that name, apologize. I'm trying to pronounce it the best I can. He was in the 74. Parker Chase was in the 35. Cameron Lawrence from Trans Am was in the 66. Brad Perez, everyone's favorite Brad Perez, was in the 53. Carson Hocevar, for his road racing experience, was put in the 07. We had Miguel Paludo in the extra junior motorsports entry in the 88. Josh Bilicki was in the 91. Preston Pardis with his own effort. Pardis Racing is back. In the 50 car, Eric Amarola, I don't know if really consider him a road ringer, but he was put in the 08. Alex LeBay, great choice for Josh Williams' absence for the week. And William Byron in the Hendrick entry. You could say they were kind of a ringer in this race as well. 42 cars here. We picked mostly the same cars that I picked to go home. Come qualifying, man, you talk about a rough year for Mike Harmon and MBM. MBM goes home again. Yes, it has been a rough year for yes, I agree in the chat. It is kind of sad not to see James Davison in the field. I mean, that guy was a very prominent road ringer for Rick Ware and DGM for a couple of years, and even Joe Gibbs. And it is kind of surprising to see that he's just kind of disappeared. He, ever since the Cup Series went to the Gen 7, we haven't seen James Davison since the Gen 6 era of Cup cars. It's been a couple of years, so kind of sad to see. I haven't even really thought about that, but I wish James Davison would come back, that's for sure. But qualifying went rough. Parker Chase actually ended up crashing at the end of practice, so it was going to be touch and go to see if they would make the race. Garrett Smithley's team, they suffered a fuel pickup issue, so they couldn't really get an up-to-speed lap at all. The 74, Baltazar, he actually did probably a lot better than I thought he would in terms of speed, but they said that they had a parts issue that they couldn't really get a good lap in either. And the 66 of Cameron Lawrence, he just complained about, voltage and brakes. Just maybe more track time would have benefited them, but they go home too. 66 and 74 miss yet another race. So far, the 66 has only made 2 of the 6 races this year, and the 74 has only made 1 of the 6 races this year. For the 4 team, it's their first DNQ in quite a while. And for the 35, I believe it's the very first DNQ for the 35 of Emerling Gase Motorsports. Notables that did make the field, though, Jeffrey Earnhardt and Alpha Prime, they switched numbers to help make sure Jeffrey was in the show. Smart move. Sage Karam was easily able to get the 44 inside the top 33. Preston Pardis easily got his 50 car into the show, qualifying a very solid 19th. Shout out to Ryan Ellis. I had him on my DNQ list. He proved me wrong. 32nd. Brad Perez, very impressive run by him. 30th. Josh Bilicki was 24th. Alex Labbe was 23rd. Carson Hocevar, man, you talk about impressive. All the way up in 17th. And that was kind of it for the backmarkers. Moving on to the race itself. Unfortunately, Carson Hocevar's – sorry, my voice getting a little parched here. Fortunately, Carson Hocevar's momentum wouldn't go very well early in the race. 8 laps in while running inside the top 15, the transmission broke. And unfortunately, you can't help a transmission failure. Yeah, I love you, Ryan. Again, I'm sorry I picked you to DNQ, man. You put me wrong. You proved me wrong, Ryan Ellis. But yeah, Carson Hocevar unfortunately broke 7 laps in. Felt for him because the 07 team desperately needed that top 20 finish, man. They're really struggling in the points right now. So a last place finish was the last thing that they needed. Kind of sucks for Carson, man. He was running top 10 in both the truck race and top 15 in the Xfinity race and broke very early. I think he only had a combined 15 laps for the day. For the other back markers, Brennan Poole, they had an oil leak. I believe they said it was some sort of oil leak. They went to the garage, got the car fixed, and got him back out 11 laps later. Austin Hill, he had a very rare engine failure for engine issue for RCR. You don't see many engine issues with that organization. Kind of sucks for Preston Pardis. He was running top 20, but started to fade early. They eventually retired with a suspension issue after just 16 laps. Poor Sage Karam at the same time. He was in and out of the garage probably 3 or 4 different times with engine issues. He complained after 8 laps that the engine sounded flat, and it just kind of continued throughout the race. They finally retired it after 23 laps. Brett Moffitt, Iowa guy, kind of sucks for him. He had an engine failure. And then, like we said, Brennan Poole, they got Brennan back out on track, 11 laps down. Pretty much pass. It was the classic case of pass the cars that we can pass, and then when we can't gain any more positions, just park the car. All of the 32 cars finished the race. So notable good underdog finishes that we had. Jeremy Clements. We know he's a road ringer. He just needs a better motor in the car, is all. 14th for him. Alex Labbe, 15th. Anthony Alfredo continues to perform in the BJ McLeod equipment, 16th. Ryan Ellis gets a top 20, so there's another shout out for you, Ryan Ellis. Kyle Weatherman, the Weatherman, get 22nd. And even Jeffrey Earnhardt, for a guy who hadn't been on a road course in over 2 years, pretty decent top 25 for him, not a bad run at all. And everyone's favorite, Brad Perez. He said he had some sort of issue towards the end of the race. He was just kind of limping at home. He still finished on the lead lap, though, 29th, so still not a bad run overall for him. Truck race I thought was more enjoyable than the Xfinity race, but still thought the Xfinity race was good overall, period. But yeah, it just sucks for, the 66 and the 74 again, as usual, man. They got the speed. They just can't seem to make the race. Ed Allmendinger, of course, would go on to win after dumping Sheldon Creed. It's kind of like the story of Sheldon Creed's career. He just can't seem to buy a break. Just can't seem to do a break. Thank you, Ryan Ellis. I appreciate that. But yeah, we move on to the Toyota Care 250. Toyota Care has been a long time partner of this Xfinity race. And we have another big entry list for this race, notable 40 entries. 40 entries for this race, including some new ones. And we do have some changes to report. Coming into this race, some changes to report that the 44 getting another bad run. They have fallen now to 35th in the points. And that's not really due to driver performance. It's just kind of due to a lot of bad luck. So that really sucks for Alpha Prime because we know they're better. We know Alpha Prime's better than 36th. It's just bad luck. I would say a case for that too. Same for Emmerling Gase Motorsports. With the bad luck they've both fallen deep outside the top 30. DGM's decent runs got them back up to 32nd. The 08's finish from COTA got them back inside the top 30. And the 43's finish kept them inside the top 30. Right now, the top 30 10K bonus battle. Right now, 28th is the 26 of Sam Hunt. Sam Hunt Racing. 29th is the 43 of Alpha Prime. And the last car getting that extra 10K will be the 08. Greg Galding will be returning to that car this weekend. First car looking in is the 6. That is Brennan Poole. They are 5 points behind. And it's actually a pretty far gap behind the 6. The 91 is 15 points behind. 15 points behind that battle. So that's going to be pretty hard to catch considering how close usually the 08 and the 90 run with each other every week. We've said it before. We kind of said it last week. At this point, CHK and MBM, it's not even about the 10K bonus anymore. It's not even about that anymore. It's not about owner points. It's literally just about making races. At this point, it is literally just about making races for MBM and CHK. Owner points don't matter because at the end of the day, you're so far behind. I mean, you'd literally have to get 2 straight top 5 finishes to catch back up at this point. You could almost say the same thing about the 07. They're down in 37th, way far down the line. Same with JD Motorsports in the 4. And again, that's not due to, necessarily their equipment. It's just due to a lot of bad luck, close calls for MBM almost making the show, the early engine failure at Daytona for the 4 car, the crash at Atlanta for the 4 car, for the 07, the poor runs that they've been having earlier in the year. It's just, there's reasons why these cars are as low as they are. But coming into this weekend, we do have some changes to announce. Blaine Perkins is expected to take over the 02 for the majority, if not the rest of the year. Fear not, FRS Racing, the team owned by Colin Fern. Excuse me again, sorry. They will be running the 96 with Kyle Weatherman. Again, in a sense, the 02 and the 96 are teammates because I wish I had a picture to show you guys. But back at Daytona, the 96 was on the Hour Hauler. The 96 logo was on the Hour Hauler, so I would imagine that this car will be transported in the Hour Hauler. And that explains where the Kyle Weatherman came from. The 96, of course, wants to run a pretty decent part-time schedule this year, but it would not shock me if they can get some good runs and build the owner points up pretty quickly, that we might see the 96 a lot more than maybe they had anticipated this year. Kind of all depends on how they run, of course. Those are kind of the big changes. Greg Galding, of course, like I said, returns to 08. The 07 was blank, but that will be Stefan Parsons, a great pickup for the 07 team. If you want a guy who's going to get that car in the show, Stefan Parsons is your guy. Stefan is a great qualifier. Derek Kraus will be driving the 10. Yes, Derek Kraus, the former driver for McAnally, who's only made a couple of appearances so far this season. He'll be driving the 10 on a part-time schedule. Joel Graf Jr. returns to the 19 for Joe Gibbs Racing. Joey Gase returns to the 35. Chris Hacker, you guys remember Chris Hacker? He drove the 30 truck at Daytona, has been part-time for Rayom the last couple years. He'll be making his Xfinity debut in the 38. Jeffrey Earnhardt returns to the 44. Leland Honeyman returns to the 45 for another race. The 53 is currently blank, but it will be Patrick Emmerling. Important to note, the 66 does say Timmy Hill. Now, this is interesting. Of course, Tyler Hill is driving the 56 this weekend in Texas, but Timmy Hill is listed on the crew roster. Timmy Hill is listed on the crew roster for the 56 truck. So I can't answer that question right now live on air, but so far Timmy is listed still in the 66. And I don't know for sure if he's going to go or not. All on-track activity for trucks is Saturday, so we'll wait to see if MBM announces something. But as of now, Timmy Hill is on the entry list. But it's weird. It's kind of a weird little situation right now. That's for sure. Dawson Cram returns to the 74 again, so I wonder if that deal with Vargas has not worked out or something, or if Vargas is just kind of focusing on the truck program. But Dawson Cram returns to the 74. Can he get the car in the show again like he did at Phoenix? I think he can possibly do it. Alex LeBay will stay with DGM another week, but who will move over to the 91. And everybody's favorite, Let's see if I can do it right there. Yep. Everyone's favorite, Josh Williams, returns to the 92 for this weekend's race. You know they're going to interview him. Fox better interview Josh Williams, that's for sure. And, of course, Kyle Weatherman in the 96. But that means 2 cars have to go home. Dawson, great qualifier, so I'm actually not going to rule him out. And the 66, I will say, if it's Timmy Hill in the 66, that car will make the show. Timmy is a great qualifier. He'll get that car in the show. But if he isn't in the 66 and there's someone else, I don't know how to call that one. I don't know how to call that one. I'll just say I won't do a DNQ picks because it's so hard to pick at this point. I'll just say this. The cars that are kind of in trouble and need to qualify and on time. 74, 66, 4, 07. I'll even lump in the 44, just if needed. I would say those cars will be the DNQs. Between those 5 cars will be the 2 DNQs for this race. I believe the 53 and the 35 are just high enough in points that they don't necessarily need to worry about missing the show. Overall for this race, again, Richmond, not one of my favorite short tracks. I've been heavily critical on Richmond this year, or the last couple years, that really, in my opinion, Richmond, the only thing it has going for it is tire strategy. That's it. Very rarely do you see actually on-track passes for the lead. You see battles within the field, but they're not very fun. And with how old the surface is, they're going so slow on the track that you very rarely see a crash. And that's my biggest problem with the Cup Series too. They're going so slow that it just feels like they won't even crash. So, for all the talk about tracks that need repaves, I feel like Richmond strongly needs a repave. That's for sure. We need to get this track back up and running with fresh pavement again, because this Richmond right now, I'm not enjoying it. I think Richmond is one of the worst, if not the worst, short track on the schedule right now. You might disagree with that, but that's kind of my take on it. If you guys want to give a race pick in the chat, I'll take John Hunter Nemechek as my race pick, and my underdog, I'll take Josh Berry as my underdog pick. So that was Xfinity. Again, remember to pay attention to that top 30 Xfinity battle. Again, like I said, the Emerling Gase cars, the Alpha Prime car, and the 07, those will be the cars to really watch out for as they try to gain ground. Same with the 6 and the 91, as the 26, 43, and 08 look to stay inside. So we now move on to the Cup race at COTA. Obviously, we had a very wild start. We had 39 cars. Now note, Carl Long and the 66 team were originally planning on running this race. I know it's kind of weird to think, but yes, the 66 was supposed to run the Cup race with Cameron Lawrence. Unfortunately, they had a sponsor deal back out at the last minute, so Carl kind of regulated him to the Xfinity car instead. Thought that was quite interesting that car was supposed to run. Did not know that. So we had 39 cars show up, our 3 open cars, 84 of Jimmy Johnson, the 50 of Connor Daly, and the 91 of Kimi Räikkönen. Awesome to see Kimi back. Who doesn't love Kimi? Guy in his 40s, badass, complete badass. Connor Daly, the money team, hopefully they can improve after their kind of a rough showing at Daytona. And Jimmy Johnson, Jimmy's never really been a road guy, and, it kind of showed this weekend. And I'll get to Jimmy in a second. But yeah, moving on to coming into Cup. Didn't know really what to expect from the underdogs. They were kind of all over the place in this race. Lap one went to lap one kind of went to craps. The 6 got turned. Then the 17 hit the 77, which hit the 84. So right out of the gate, poor Ty Dillon. I mean, you talk about all the success that the 7 team of Spire is having this year, that you almost forget the 77 team even exists. And they have just done nothing this year. Largely, it's not even their own fault. Daytona, engine failure. Auto Club, they were caught up in that big melee crash. And here they had another crash. That wasn't their fault. So you could say just a lot of bad luck for the 77 along at the same time with a little bit of low speed. Personally, I think this run actually saved Jimmy Johnson from a potential embarrassing finish. I did not expect much out of Jimmy for this race. And frankly, I don't think he probably would have done better than 25th. You know, some people saying that Jimmy was going to get maybe a top 10 finish. Timmy was going to get probably top 10 finish. But personally, I don't think Jimmy was going to do that good anyway, honestly. So the fact that he kind of got out early makes me think he maybe avoided a bad finish. Connor Daly and the 50 team broke again, which I love the money team racing. I'm glad they show up, but it just kind of sucks to see them break or have mechanical issues and pretty much every single race they attempt. Overall, the race was, Cup race was good. No lack of stages, provided great on-track entertainment. Obviously, we all know what happened at the end with the drivers racing like a bunch of knuckleheads. But just kind of skipping all that because we're not here to talk about all that crap. We're here to talk about backmarker good runs. And boy, did we have them. Congratulations to Tyler Reddick and that team for getting the big win. But we also had some great underdog runs. 7th place finish for our Daytona 500 champions, JTG Doherty Racing. A great run for that organization. Front Row Motorsports, they stole the show for good runs. Todd Gilliland, top 10 finish for him. Great showing for him. Michael McDowell, after getting turned, recovered. We actually watched that last restart. He passed 20 cars in one corner. Finished 12th. Corey LaJoy, he came back from 2 laps down after having his diffuser dragging to finish 11th. Jensen Button for Rick Ware finished 18th. And even give a shout out to Cody Ware. Cody Ware ran a lead lap all day, didn't really struggle, ran competent lap times, and got a very decent 25th place finish. The only one I feel for is Josh Bilicki. That car in the 78 Live Fast team, they had a lot better car than 26. They deserved a better finish than 26. They just kind of got caught up in that last couple of restart melee. He was running inside the top 20 before we got those last couple of cautions. But still, you could even say 26 is actually a somewhat decent run for the Live Fast team as well. The only underdogs that really did not come out of there with a good run were the 50 of Connor Daly and the 77 of Ty Dillon. Coming into this weekend coming out of this weekend at COTA, I would say, the owner standings, great runs for the 15, extended their points lead, exactly what the 15 needs in that precious top 33 charter battle. They are 80 points above. You could say from right now, the top 33 cut line, they are 48 points above the cut line right now. So they're doing exactly what they need to stay ahead. Even the 51 team is still doing quite well. They're 32nd right now. Live Fast is 33rd, but obviously we know the 9 and the 31 will more than likely catch them and pass them within the next couple of weeks, probably about 45 weeks. 4 to 5, not 45 weeks. But yeah, the car that is struggling, though, is Spire. They just can't afford these bad runs because right now, I mean, they are behind the 78 by 6 points, behind the 51 by 30 points, and behind the 15 by 48 points. And, you know, you could say with how close they run with each other every week, I mean, I would say it's almost impossible at this point that they do catch the 15. That's almost too far ahead unless, you know, they have a great run at a plate race at Talladega in a couple weeks. I will say they'll also come into the top $25 million bonus at the end of the year. The 9 and the other Hendrick cars will easily get it, but I'm still a little skeptical on if the 31 will get it. They are over 100 points. They are exactly 100 points out of the top 25. And they need to gain that back and build themselves back up too. So I will say it's maybe not going to be the year that Colleague wants with that organization. The one thing I will say, though, and you can say it's bad luck at the same time, but what has happened to Wood Brothers Racing? Is it Harrison Burton? What's happened? Last 2 years have been nothing but crap for Wood Brothers Racing to the point where, I mean, this car is coming out of the Penske shop and it is running outside the top 25 every single week, almost every single week. Is it Harrison Burton, or is it just this car's not getting a lot of put into it? What's going on here? The 21 is 4 points ahead of the 51 in owner points. The 21 is behind the 10 or behind the 15 in owner points. Actually, to put in perspective, the 15 Rick Ware racing car is ahead of the 10, the 41, and the 21 in owner points this season. Really puts into perspective right there. Ahead of 2 Stewart-Haas cars and the 21. But seriously, what is going on with the 21 car? I mean, at this point, we have to classify them as a backmarker team. They are not running well. Is it Harrison? Does Harrison got to go? What needs to change? Because, ever since Paul Menard left, it just hasn't been the same, I feel like, for that team. DiBenedetto, he didn't really do anything over there. Burton hasn't really done anything over there. It's just not been good. So I don't know what needs to change about the Wood Brothers, but I'm classifying them now as a backmarker team once again. I mean, we haven't seen Wood Brothers, in my opinion, struggle this bad since their last full-time season in 2008. One of their last full-time seasons in 2008 when they failed to qualify for like 5 races and ran like junk the rest of the year. So I don't know what needs to change over at the Wood Brothers team, but it really sucks seeing that legendary 21 running like crap every week. Coming into Richmond, though, we have more than a full field. So that's good to see. We have 37 cars here. They ask yourself, well, who's the open entry? Not a low-budget team. This was one of the few races that Chandler Smith, they didn't get to make their debut. They didn't get to make their debut at Daytona due to the DNQ, but they will be making their debut this weekend. 37 cars are on the entry list. Other notable changes, J.J. Yaley returns to Rick Ware Racing, kind of as expected. Anthony Alfredo will be making his Cup Series return for LibFast Motorsports in the 78. Dude Wipes will be the sponsor. So great to see Anthony back in the Cup Series again after his long season for Front Row and back in 2021. Again, not many other changes in that. Again, in general, I'm not a big fan of Richmond, so I can't really give you guys – I was saying, I mean, if you need tire strategy just to make this race somewhat interesting, I really don't like that. I do think this is a race, though, we'll see the backmarker struggle. We saw it last year and kind of the years prior. We haven't seen the backmarkers particularly do that well, kind of just racing each other while they're racing the other parts of the field. I don't even think the 7 will necessarily have a good run either. I think the 7 will struggle just as much. Ooh, excuse me there. I think the 7 will struggle too. I think the 78 will probably show a lot more speed with Alfredo behind the wheel because, he'll be eager to get behind the wheel. Cody Ware will probably struggle again, unfortunately. I mean, it just feels like all the ovals this year that Cody has just had handling issues with. Same with the 47. They usually struggle at these races. For the backmarker organizations, I just feel like it's going to be a struggle for them. So I'm not expecting much out of the backmarkers. Not because, they can't get it done, but because Richmond is such a tire-sensitive, handling-sensitive track. A lot of the times these backmarker organizations just can't keep up, so to say. And that's not a dig at them. It's just based off the results. Last year's races, the previous, going back to the Gen 6 era, the backmarker teams just seem to struggle at this track. So not really expecting all that much out of them this weekend. As for the one open car, the 13 of Chandler Smith, I would expect at least a top 25 finish, top 25, top 20 finish out of him. Race winner's pick, I will go with Kevin Harvick as my race winner's pick. And if you want me to give an underdog, I'll go with my main man, Brad Keselowski. So that'll be my pick there. But yeah, guys, so that's kind of a COTA to Richmond for all 3 of those teams. I won't get to see the Xfinity race, of course, so I won't get to cover that at all with you guys. But if you guys follow along with me on Twitter, we'll be posting a lot of stuff about the truck race Practice and qualifying will not be posted. Like I said, with this kind of being a standalone race, not shocked that practice and qualifying will not be televised. Obviously, the cost to run these events is a lot, so it makes sense to an extent. But I'll miss a lot of on-track action on Saturday, so kind of keep me fueled in on how the Xfinity guys are doing for me. I'll let you guys know how we're doing. Hopefully, Tyler can give the 56 a great run. We're doing very good right now, top 20 in owner points. And I'm just very eager. I've never been to Texas Motor Speedway, and it's going to be a lot of fun. But, yeah, Richmond, not one of my favorite tracks, so this might be a little bit of an off weekend for kind of my excitement level. I'm still going to watch, but Richmond's definitely not one of my favorite tracks. But we'll be here tomorrow, yes, for the ARCA Racing podcast, live at 6 p.m. Central Time. The ARCA East Series season opener, not the best race that ARCA East has put on at Pensacola. And we will have our ARCA West, their first standalone event for the year at Irwindale. That'll be tomorrow, live at 6 p.m. Central Time. I hope you guys join me there as well. Yeah, wow, man, I'm wore out. So, again, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's episode of NASCAR Backmarker Battles, our COTA review and Texas-Richmond preview. Again, like and subscribe to the channel. We're about to hit 1,050 subs. Go follow me on Twitter if you guys like the Backmarker news and Start and Park stuff. Trying to post more Start and Park stuff again. I know I've kind of bleeded away from that, but I know that's kind of what made the account popular, so I'm trying to get back into that again. And, yeah, all that fun stuff. So till tomorrow, guys, I will catch you on the ARC Racing podcast. Continue supporting the channel, and we'll catch you all real soon. Colby Evans, signing off. So long, guys.